They say the new 2026 cars are slightly smaller. Well, in my hand, I have an endplate inspired by the new 2026 Active Aero front wings that I have 3D printed. So I want to take you on the journey of how I designed this in Blender. I want to show you how I also printed it using different slices and cutting up these parts. So just this one end plate here has around about 8 parts in just the end plate. So I don't know how this is going to go, but we are looking at many parts across the front wing. And who knows, if I decide to print the whole car life size, that's going to take all year. As the season progresses, these wings will look slightly different as the teams reveal and improve their different designs. And I actually want to also, alongside the teams, look at what they are doing and also include their design features into the 3D print. So this could change. Things could look different. We could start all over again. All I know is I think it's going to be a bit of fun. Take you through all the different steps that I went through to come up with this, from using reference images, watching videos online, and reading the new 2026 regulations. This is either going to be very impressive or it's going to end up being a disaster. I mean, how hard can it be to print this in life size using my little Ender 3? I think we need a bigger printer. Alright, so to start us off, I have already designed the 2026 car concept already. This is where I'm at so far. But I'm going to take you along the journey and also show you how I got to this stage from scratch. So maybe when I recreate this model, I might make it a little bit different. Definitely more better. As it's my second go at designing the new 2026 inspired car. To start off with, we're going to just focus in on these end plates. So the front wing end plates is what I'm going to call these parts here. And I want to show you how simple it is just to create these designs. Now, what you will notice is we're looking at Blender, and there is a lot going on in Blender. Obviously, if you press File New, all you see in the middle is the square. And I've firstly added the reference images of the 2026 car. Now, you're going to ask, where did I get these from? I actually uploaded some pictures of the 2026 car that I found online off the F1 website, as well as some pictures from the TV that I took. And I asked ChatGPT to create a blueprint of the front, the side, and the rear. And normally this is how I normally start designing 3D objects, is by using a blueprint. As you can see, it's not the best blueprint because the actual dimensions don't match. If you look from this bottom, it doesn't match, but for the side and this top bit, sorry, so the underneath doesn't match. But the top and the side, they match really well, and this basically creates a nice side profile for me to follow and creating shapes. So we're going to create the front wing first. We can start off by using this side profile, or we could start off by looking at the top profile. So let me help you a little bit more. I'm going to remove my objects so that we can actually see the blueprint a little bit better. So let's just remove my current design of my car. There we go. Now, from the blueprint, we can see the top shapes that we need to be getting an outline of the shape for, as well as the side of the front wing. And for you guys, we're just going to start off with the top. So to do this, I'm just going to get a normal mesh, a cube mesh, and we're going to bring it to the top bit here. Let's clean this mesh a little bit actually, by just getting one face. So we could have started off with a plane really. A plane, if we just delete these a plane would look something as simple as this. And what we're going to do is what we call these orange dots that I've highlighted. So these are dots, these are vertices. We can add more vertices, remove vertices, and also move these vertices to create different shapes. So we've added a cube, but we've actually took majority of the vertices off just to leave us with this flat kind of piece of paper, you could say. So if I just unclick, so we have now a basic square, 4 vertices, in which we're going to manipulate. We're going to add vertices and remove vertices to make this top shape of the front wing. And that's kind of what we're trying to achieve first, is the shape from the top side view. Now, to help a little bit, we can press this button at the top here, make things a little bit transparent. I'm just going to drag this down to here just to get a good starting point. There we go. Now, let's have a go. So I'm just going to click on my edge here with these 2 vertices, move that one there, and then what we can also do is bring these vertices all the way up here, and we can move this one to here and that one to there. Now, as you can see, the wing, it does have this nice curve here. What we can do is loop cut, and I'm going to put that just there. I'm just going to go back to the select box button, click on that vertice, get my arrows, and just move that there. There we go. And what that basically means is we can now move this vertice here, and we kind of have that basic kind of shape of what the top of the wing would look like. So if I just press the control button, so from the top view we now have this. I'm just going to move around using my magic mouse just so I can see what it looks like. So we know this side of the wing will be the part of the wing that actually goes up. So if you click on the vertices, hit the extrude, the E button on the keyboard, press Z, and it will directly go up. If we look back at the top, we haven't messed around with the shape or anything like that. It's 100% all fine. I am going to add a little bit of a detail. I can see it's got a nice little curve here, so I'm just doing another loop cut. And then again, I'm going to need to click the B button because there's actually 2 vertices there. There's 1 there and 2 there. If I look at the top, it only looks like 1. I want to click on both of those vertices. That way I'm editing this shape, and I'm going to just add that curve just to the bottom. And we can make this more curvy using something called a modifier, which kind of saves us a little bit. We're working on very simple shapes here, but you could make this simple shape into quite a curvy shape. I'll show you in just a minute how I do that. We'll come back to that. So what we got, am I happy with the top? We could do a little bit more detail. So again, loop cut. I'm just going to add some of this detail here. I'm going to do another one there. Let's see what that would look like. So back to the select button. Actually, what we could do here is if we press E for extrude and go in the X direction, we've just extruded that shape a little bit more, and that would then gives us a little bit more vertices to play and create the kind of shape that helps, I believe, deflect air either to the wheel or around the wheel. What they are doing in Formula 1 with these end plates is work in the air in a specific way, which is why we have all of these shapes. Now we know the wing doesn't look like that in real life, but this is actually a really good starting point. And what we're going to do next is get the front of the car, which is just here, and we're going to now try and copy that shape. So let's move our blueprint. So I'm going to click the select button, click the object button, click on to my image, my reference image. By the way, if you don't know how to add a reference image, it's basically as simple as add image reference image. And you just basically click on the image. So I'm on the image here, and you can move them around. Make sure all of your reference images are the same size, because that way, if it's a good blueprint, everything should for you match up quite nicely. Now I'm just going to take off the invisible button just because I want to see where so that's the object we've got there. We just bring our reference image a little bit closer. There we go. And what we're going to do is just going to roughly get it as close as possible. It's not too bad actually. You can see here I've got it quite well. Somehow I managed to get it quite good there. I'm going to just hide this wheel just to give us a bit of a clearer view. There we go. Perfect. Now if we were to press the X button, the X view, we can't actually see the bottom bit of this plane. So let's help ourselves a little bit because we can't see the plane as clear. I'm going to add something called a modifier. So at the bottom here we have modifiers on your screen. If you click modifiers, we're going to add a modifier that can add some thickness to our shape that we have just created. So if we press generate, and then we want solidifier because we want to make it a solid object. As you can see here, we've got some thickness settings, offset, even thickness. We do want even thickness. I'm just going to zoom in for you a little bit. And as you can see there, we have a little bit of thickness. Not much. I'm going to make it a little bit more thicker. There you go. And what that is doing is adding some thickness, but not actually changing our shape. Because if we go back to edit mode, we can see just the vertices that we added. It hasn't actually created vertices at the top here. It's a modifier. It's modifying the existing shape using Blender. Now let's add some of the shapes of the front end wing. Okay, so we can see if I click on the ghost button again, what that does is, because I'm looking just on the X direction, I can't actually see all the vertices behind it. I can only see one, but when you're clicking on the ghost button here, so the toggle X-ray button, and let's say you click here, so I press B, and then I highlight here, I've actually selected all the vertices behind this, and that does mean then all those vertices behind that will also move. So if I press my X button, I can now click on the arrow and just move this down. And what we're doing is we're going to try and create this shape of the front wing. Again, we can always scroll back to the top, make sure we're happy. I think we can definitely add some more loop cuts here. So let's add a loop cut there. Back to our X. And I'm going to bring this all the way down. There we go. Need to now bring these down. And what we should have is kind of a shape that is getting closer to. But this is solid now. To help you, you should see the shape is starting to appear. We're going to add a little bit of a. Now, as you can see, it looks very boxy at the minute, and this is where another modifier will help us out to remove that kind of boxiness, those basic shapes that we see on the screen. I'm going to do the modifier for you now. So another modifier that I use a lot is the smooth modifier. So if you press add modifier, generate subdivision surface, it adds more divisions basically to the surface that you have created. So we have very basic divisions like literally 1, 2, 3, but when you add subdivision surface, it adds many more surfaces. Now the problem when you do this, you do lose some of that sharpness. You can add that back on by clicking all the vertices and pressing ring and increasing the increase. And what that does is it gives you that shape back again. So I am going to click on all the vertices on the outside edge, and that just allows me to get back some of that sharp edges that I originally created. So there we go. We're getting close to our front wing. Now I'm going to admit I have been looking at some of these images on some of the newest images from Formula One cars that have been in the Bahrain testing, Barcelona testing before that, and I have noticed that these end wings, they do fall in a little bit. So my design, I'm going to just customize it a little bit from this reference image. And I'm just going to go back onto the X view. So let's get our arrows back. X view. Again, let's bring this up. We can increase them in increase to give us that sharp edge again. Do the sharp edge on the back as well. We increase. Now, I think I also want to create a vertex crease. We'll make that even more sharp at the back like that. There we go. Now, like I said, this actually on the cars when I was watching testing at the top goes up. So I'm going to add a loop cut, bring that loop cut about there. And we are going to just go back onto the select button. And then I'm just going to use my arrows and just fall in that wing, just like that. And what you'll find is we are now getting a much more resembling shape of the end plate. We can make it more smoother using the modify that we just added, which was the subdivision. So at the bottom here, if I just click on this, I put it onto levels 3, renders on number 2, and that has given me a lot more smoother end product. And that's basically my end wing. And you could mess around with this a lot more. I think some cool things to be playing around with is obviously you've got your levels, but bear in mind these levels, you add these last. Mess around with the simple shapes and then add the smoothing, and you'll find that helps. But what you do want to do is when you're in the edit mode and you mess around with your crease, sometimes the crease you can remove it sometimes and get a nicer shape. So also play around with that as well. I don't like this bit here, so we can remove that crease there. And there you go, you've got a much smoother end wing plate. Now there is we haven't actually done it from the side, we've done it from the top. So we did that top one, remember, and then we also did it from the front and we customized it a little bit. Let's do it from the side. To do it from the side, I'm just going to click back on the object buttons, click back on our reference image, and on our reference image, where's the side? The side is here. So we're going to move this image into a place that's quite close to our object. So let's rotate this, rotate on the z-axis. So 180, reverse that image. Let's go back to the side. Let's click on our arrows. Let's get this nice in position clearly. Boom. Boom. There we go. Now that's quite close. We can bring that maybe a little bit more lower. Okay, we'll stick with that. I'm going to get back onto the object that I was editing, and we're going to move around some of these vertices. So let's start with the front, because the front is quite aggressive. So let's make this transparent so we can see what we're doing. We'll bring this all the way down for this vertex here. And then we can actually get rid of this vertex. And if we hold these there, so I'm just going to highlight this string of vertices. going to bring this all the way forward. And then I'm going to add these, make a bridge, add an edge, sorry, to here, and then fill in this face. We do have to add another mean crease on. Mean crease that, and now we look, you can start to see our Formula One endplate. I'm just going to tidy up my vertices. I like them to be all nice and aligned. Bit of the OCD in me. I am going to, again, there we go, make that a little bit, follow the shape. Now we can really start to see our Formula One end plate, and we're going to do the same here. We're going to bring this in, and we'll bring this in at the top. You don't always have to follow your reference images. The Formula One cars, they will be changing these designs as we progress through the season, so I always think it's kind of cool to not always follow your reference image, but to follow what you're also seeing in real life. Okay, let's bring this down. I've got a slight error here. There we go. And there you go. If I just click onto the object mode, we now have, let's just click off that, created our front wing. Our front wing end plate. It could do with a bit more work. Let's bring this slightly here. So what we can do actually is bring that slightly in because it's got a nice curve, just like that. And that's all we're really doing, is getting our vertices in places that looks natural and fits the design of the new Formula One car design. Just going to bring that here. I'm actually going to, should really work transparently, there we are. I just bring that here, that's going to help a little bit. And then we can move that like that. And I'm kind of close really to what the end plates are starting to look like. Now it's very aggressive at the back, might need some play around with that. But overall, I'm really happy with that. Okay, so now I'm happy with the end plate, all looks good. I've done a little bit of fine tuning, added some little details I like, messed around with the mean crease. I'm happy with my thickness that I've gone for, so the thickness is quite thick, but thin, sorry, but this just speeds up printing time. I'm going to do probably like a 10% infill in this, so there will be some visible lines inside that you may see on the print, but we are going to be laminating these parts with carbon fibre. I've gone for 7mm thickness, which is quite thin. Now next up, we are going to cut this up into multiple pieces. I think it's going to be about 8 pieces, this end plate, because it's life size, it's huge, and I've only got a small printer. I am planning to buy a bigger printer to help me with this project. But for now, to get me started, my little Ender 3 will do the job. So what we're going to do is just cover this whole end plate. I'm going to put the transparency button on just to help me. Let's cover this whole end plate. So I'm just going to make this fit. So all I'm doing is I press S and then I press, let's say, the X-axis, and that makes the scale of the X-axis slightly bigger and smaller. So it's a good little thing to play around with. Just going to move that slightly there. Okay, we can now mess around here. So S, Y, bring that there. Hopefully that's all in. Good. Okay, so a bit difficult for me to explain what it is I'm going to do next, but just this is my way of slicing up a large object. What I'm going to do is, with that cube I just created, I'm going to turn off the transparency. I'm going to just add now a variety of loop cuts, and I'm going to go quite crazy with it. So let's add some loop cuts, and it's kind of important that we do it now. Let's add some there. Yeah, we'll stick with that. So what we do have now is this shape. I'm going to copy and paste this shape multiple times. So for each cut of this piece of the end plate, I'm going to create that cube multiple times, but in different ways. So for example, to make the first part, if we just remove this vertice, and then I'm going to need this axis, so I'm just going to check what this y is -500. I'm going to move, so extrude y, put it at -500. Just make a face here. And what this is going to do now is actually make a cutout for me in a minute. Option, clicks all the things. Now this is going to seem small, but like I said, I've got a small printer, and sometimes I like printing in small pieces just in case there's an issue with the printer and it's not a long print. We can start again. Okay, so if I turn off transparency, I've got one small piece of the end plate. I want that small piece to be cut out using the cube. Now remember this, let's say we called this part 1. I'm just going to call this P1. What we want to do then is that P1, we then want to copy again, probably multiple times. So we'll have a P2, a P3, a P4. And what that means is this P1 looks like that, and the next P2, I'm just going to quickly do it. If I just hide the P1 and then edit the actual P2. There we go. So I'm just going to edit this. I'm going to now go back to what the original shape was. So I'm going to need to get this measurement again down here. So Z -1000. Extrude Z -1000. Enter. Back to the. Probably should copy and paste this original shape, so I don't have to keep repairing what I originally started off with. But for part 2, we're now going to make part 2. We just remove these faces, X faces, and we're going to need to get that interior measurement, which I think was -500. Control or Command C, E, Y, -500. There we go, hit enter. Do the same with this, E, Y. Let's put just -500 right away. So we'll make that face now. And you'll see in a minute why I'm doing all this. It seems a bit bizarre, but it's the way that I normally do it. Like I said, please, in the chat, put a way that you do it. Is there a better way to slice an object into multiple pieces? So yeah, we click back on here on our end plate, and we want to then put our P2 on. Just find P2. We then hide it, and we've now got that part there, the second part, and you just keep basically doing that through all of the parts. And that is how I went about designing the end plate.
right for you. You want it, you want it. I'll make it right for you. Like them desire, make it different for you. Like them desire, make it different for
you. This just gave the print, which has been slightly sanded, a much nicer finish. In my opinion, I think this is one of the coolest rings I've seen, and I really would like one in life size. So I'm going to print one. I'm also going to laminate it in carbon fibre to make it look like the real thing. And also, I think I'm going to go for the design at the minute that I've seen in Bahrain testing, the early stages of testing these rings. I'm going to go for the Formula 1 kind of design nose, but I'm going to make these elements in pieces. So this piece, the end plate, will be one piece that will then bolt onto this main structural bit, because this main structural bit doesn't move. These two parts do move. So the main piece at the bottom will bolt to the end piece. The nose itself will bolt into 2 bolts into the bottom of this main structural piece, and obviously the whole nose will be one largely big piece. Now I only have an Ender 3 which has a print size bed of 20 centimeters by 20 centimeters by 20 centimeters. I think that's what it is anyway, and that does mean just to print this one end plate will require many parts. So watch this space. I want to go through with you how I print off all of these individual pieces to make this end plate, glue them together and make the whole thing work. I don't know how it's going to happen. I definitely want to create the active aero bit, so it'd be nice to see a motor in my nose just zoop, zoop, as if it's a real thing. A nice piece of wall art. I don't know, should I 3D print the whole car and put it in my summer house as a piece? That would be quite cool. So come along with this journey, hit the follow button, hit the subscribe button so you can follow all the steps. I'll make as many of my files or all my files available for you guys as well, so you can join in with the fun and 3D print with me a Formula 1 life-size front wing.